Hey guys, what's going on? This is your old pal CHH, and today I want to talk to you guys about comparing an actual Shout Factory title because, sometimes we can talk about the review of a new release, but I think it's also beneficial to talk about comparing it to a previous release. And I thought there's no better episode I could do this for than with a movie like Matinee because, number one, this may be a title that not a lot of you have seen, and to me, that is a sin. Now, I know, as old CHH can admit, there's still a ton of movies that I need to see that I probably should have seen. But in this case, you have to trust me when I say this is easily in my top 5 Joe Dante films of all time. It has one of my favorite actors ever, John Goodman, in it. It's a great film. I love it so much. As you guys can see, I have the movie hung up poster-wise in here. It's one of my favorite posters I own. It is what I consider to be a early 90s masterpiece. I love it. It's a great film. The reason Matinee didn't really, I think, succeed in a huge way is because it's kind of a weird movie to promote because it's about Lawrence Woolsey, who's this great promoter. He's this blue-collar movie guy that's promoting his new feature film, Mant. But we're in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and kids are afraid to go out. They don't know if the world's going to explode at any moment. The parents are also freaking out, but they want to have some fun. The kids are wanting to enjoy themselves, and Lawrence Woolsey thinks that the kids deserve to do that. So the whole movie is about just really what times in life were like during this era of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it's a very endearing film. It's a charming film. It's also a movie lovers kind of film because it's about movies. It's about Lawrence Woolsey as this great movie promoter wanting to make his audience have a great time, and it's amazing. It's just one of those movies that really, really, really works in every capacity, but it's very hard to promote, so I understand why it probably didn't find a huge audience. But it's an early 90s Joe Dante film starring John Goodman. What could you not love about that? I love the movie. So when I first saw it, I was just like, I should have seen this years ago. I'd never even heard of it, but I guess I understand why. It's just one of those things. So the reason I want to do this is because both versions of this movie are available right now. Both the 4K and the Blu-ray version are both available. The question is, which release is better? Because I'm really going to try to answer this. I'm not going to try to dodge the question, but the interesting thing about this is the fact that these are not the same. There's new features on one, and there's missing features on one as well, which makes this so bizarre that I don't understand how or why. So hopefully you're somebody that hasn't seen this movie that's watching this video, and this video can help you decide, if I'm convincing you of how good of a movie it is, which release you should pick up. So with that being said, let's go into both releases and break it down. So first and foremost, the Blu-ray release for Matinee featured new great artwork. I'm looking for a name on here. I don't see the name, but the artwork's really good. So this artwork obviously was only done for the Blu-ray release, and I love it. In the movie Matinee, Lawrence Woolsey is promoting his new feature film, Mant. It's a great title, right? Mant, it's a man-ant. It's like the fly, except it's Mant. Brilliant. So I love it. So this artwork was done only for the Blu-ray. Obviously, if you get it now, it'd be hard to get it with the slip. So you'd get that art, or you can reverse it to the theatrical poster art, which I love to death, as you guys know. You saw I have it on my wall. What comes on this Blu-ray release? Well, let's take a look at the back and go over the features. We've got new interviews with Joe Dante, editor Marshall Harvey, cinematographer John Hora, Mant performer Mark McCracken, and Mant designer Jim McPherson. Paranoia and Ant Vision, Joe Dante discusses the making of the film. Mant, the full-length version of the film with introduction by Joe Dante. Vintage making of featurette, theatrical trailer, and more. There's and more is basically the vintage featurettes and things like that, the still galleries and that sort of thing. So this, at the time, would have been considered a sensational release. Now, the thing about this release that was heavily promoted, and even says so on the hype sticker on here, it says, featuring the full-length version of Mant. So, in the movie, like I said, there's Mant, the movie. They filmed that. Joe Dante and crew filmed this old 50s-style movie to be put inside of the film. And so, that whole movie is featured on the special features of this release. When it comes to the picture quality of this, the picture quality of Matinee on the Blu-ray is good. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a good-looking movie. It was shot very well. It was a Universal picture, so this was not some sort of low-budget movie. This movie looked and sounded sensational on this Blu-ray. So when I got this quickly became one of my favorite releases. When it comes to Shout Factory releases, I have far and away my favorite. I love this release. So I would give this release a solid 2 thumbs up in terms of picture, audio, and the special features are out of this world. Sensational. Moving on now to the 4K release of Matinee. Now, first off, you have to ask this question, or you may be asking yourself, well, Christian, if that release is so great, why did you upgrade this? The reason I upgraded this is because I really do love this movie that much. I needed to see it in 4K. And I was planning on just doing a review of this movie because of wanting to promote it to people that maybe have never heard of it before or hadn't seen it before. But when I watched this and looked at the special features of this, it changed the dynamic of this video. Instead of just doing a review of this, I needed to do a comparison video of this because this is one of the more interesting facets of going from Blu-ray to 4K with these boutique labels. So, the 4K version of the film features the slip art of the original poster, which is something that they do now for everything. They did not make an offer for Matinee, which had even new different art that you could have gotten where you bought both slips and anything like that. I would have broke down and gotten it, but you know, the release itself, the only special version you could have gotten of this was this with the poster, but I already have a 27x40 in here, so I was not going to buy another poster of the same thing. So I got the regular release of this. So the picture quality of this compared to this is fairly noticeable. This was obviously taken from the camera negative as a 4K, and the movie looks incredible. Just incredible. I couldn't be more happy with the picture quality. But, you know, not that I'm not happy, but the reality is I should be saying that because this is taken from the camera negative. This is a boutique label doing these restoration works, and they should look great, and they do look great. So it's really more of a, well, it better, not so much that it does, you know. I almost feel like sometimes when I say, thank God it looked great, it's almost like I got lucky that it looked good. No, the reality is these should look better, right? And it does. So that was great. And I think this even had Dolby Atmos on it. It did. So the sound on here is also a vast improvement over your Matinee Blu-ray. So picture and audio on here definitely improved big time. You're going to get a better picture. You're going to get a much better sound on the 4K release. And the way I'm going to watch it from now on is hands down going to be this release. It was done sensational, very well. And in terms of the art, again, there's no reversible art as far as I can tell. I never even tried to reverse the slip because I don't think there would be. No, there's not. There's no rhyme or reason why they sometimes do reverse art. Everybody saw that on the Blob. Surprisingly, they gave us different artwork on the release. Nobody understood why, but it just did in fact have reverse art. Matinee does not, of course. So artwork is going to be the same on these. Nothing wrong with that. Now let's talk about the features and compare these two. This is where things are really going to get interesting. So there is new stuff on here. Let's look at the back and have a look. Okay, guys, so on disc 1, we of course get the 4K restoration in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. We get a new audio commentary with film critic Drew McWeeny and Eric Vesp. On disc 2, we get a new restoration with the camera negative, supervised and approved by Joe Dante. New audio commentary with McWeeny and Eric, which is put on both discs. We have a new interview with actress Kelly Martin. We have a new interview with actor David Clennon. Of course, we have all those previous interviews that we saw on the Blu-ray release from years ago, right here with the interviews with, and you list all those names. Paranoia and Ant Vision, the vintage making-of featurettes, behind-the-scenes footage, deleted scenes. Something is missing on this release that I gotta be honest, I didn't realize when I bought this. Not that it would have really made a difference for me, to be totally honest with you, but this could be a deciding factor for a lot of you. This release is missing the Mant movie. This was heavily promoted to have Mant on here, but on the 4K, that whole feature is out. Now, this has new interviews, which is great, but for them to not have the Mant movie on the 4K is truly interesting to me and kind of a bummer, especially because I would have loved to have seen, hopefully, the Mant movie restored in 4K as well, put on the 4K release. So I don't know what happened there, but these releases are different. If you want to enjoy the Mant movie, now the Mant movie is about 20 minutes or so, and there's this great lengthy introduction from Joe Dante before Mant plays on the feature where he describes what they did, how they made the movie, the reason they made the movie, shooting the film, making the scenes. And there's this great scene where the Mant monster is climbing a building and the military is trying to blow it down. Like, it is a movie. I mean, it's a short movie, but it is a movie, and it's actually pretty incredible. So I don't know what happened, but for some reason, and they did do new interviews on here, which is good. There's 2 new interviews on here, which kudos, great job on that. But what happened? Why is the Mant movie not on here? So these releases are different. Then you have to ask yourself which release sounds more suited to you. Are you somebody that likes to learn more from the actors and people to get behind the scenes on things like that? Or does the idea of watching the film Mant in here in its entirety with a great intro from Joe Dante mean more to you? So these releases are not the same. Gun to the head, if you were going to ask me which release is better, the interviews are great. Don't get me wrong. The new interviews were done very well. They're shot very well. They're very enjoyable, and I loved hearing them. But the Mant movie in here is incredible, and I can't believe this wasn't put on the 4K. So between the two, if you're watching this and you're deciding which release would you want to get, because both are still available, obviously getting the slip for this would be a little bit more difficult, but between the two, I think getting the Mant movie with the great introduction by Joe Dante makes this the better release. It really is a bummer that they didn't put on the 4K. I don't know why, but they didn't. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this answers some questions and lets you see that not all upgrades are the same, even when it comes from the same label. Things can be different. Things can be left out. I don't know why. Above all, I will say this. If you haven't seen this movie, for God's sakes, please check this out for me. I think you're really going to love it. To me, this is one of Joe Dante's best movies that nobody has seen, and it truly is a crime to me because of how lovely and charming and enjoyable it is. So there you go, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Above all, pick one of these up so you can watch Matinee. Cheers. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.